Hi there, I'm Angela, and I wanted to share a little bit of information about the Echo Advanced Coaching option. And so, like all our opportunities here at Angela.Naeth.Coaching, it is built around the athlete, finding out where the athlete is and coach them in a way that brings out their best. So it's not necessarily a system, it's a relationship between the coach and the athlete. And that is the core of how we coach. Your finish line is our mission. And so with Echo Advanced, it's a little bit more intrinsic in the finer details. There's two rules that guide us. One is we coach the athlete, you are today. And two, we make decisions with your physiology and your data, and we assess them, apply them, and evolve them. So how does this work? Why does this work? When the feedback comes in from you and the metrics guide every step, we are able to adapt the weeks and the days with purpose. And that's where the resets are built. That's where the race targets are made. We look at your short-term fatigue, which is your ATL. We look at your long-term load, which is your chronic training load. And we look at your freshness for each sport, which is your TSB. We track these in each sport, your bike, your run, your swim, independently, and then they don't cancel each other out, but they evolve on a separate timeline, and that's the key. So how do we use these metrics? So we look into Training Peaks, we put everything through Training Peaks, and we look at your stress that you've had per each exercise bout, so that's your training stress score. We look at your trend line of your chronic training load. How much load of training have you done in the last 42 days? And then your current fatigue levels, so your acute training load, how much TSS training stress that you've done in the whole week at a time. And then from that, we look at your form. Are you ready for the next days or the next week's opportunities? We then bring in your personal feedback. So we look at your stress, your fatigue levels, your sleep, your HRV, your recovery. This is very, very comprehensive. Your notes and your subjective feedback help with this as well. And so then from there, we take all of that information and we slowly build out the next week based on a TSS build for each separate sport, if you're a triathlete or runner or a cyclist. As part of this, we need to assess where you are, your physiology. And part of that is looking at either critical power, critical speed, or using heart rate. So we do these assessment tests of 3, 6, and 12 minutes, or sometimes the 400 meter, the 800 meter, and the 3200 meter for your pace on the run, if you're a runner. We also take your heart rate, and we look at that as your heart rate based is either worked on with your TSS, or we use your power for your TSS. And we establish your zones, threshold zones, things to work on, and put you and look at you in a physiological state. So for example, if you're someone who can go ride for 10 hours, you're highly aerobic, and you might need a little bit more threshold work during your base phase of training. And so it's not looking at a progressive overload, it's taking where you are right now and seeing what you need as an athlete and building from there. You might be someone who lacks a lot of speed and power based on your critical power numbers. So we need to add in some really, really high intensity during the base and durability load. We may need to change you into a different block for the time being so that we can make you a very holistic athlete that is ready to perform for your races that are coming in days away. So we focus these on block training. So we look at your base and your durability. We look at your sustainable power, which is your threshold. And we look at your very top end work, which is your VO2. And then from there, we do some very specific work that is based on race pace and fueling. And then your strength is then adjusted each week and supported by the block that you're in. We always like to deload athletes, so take off some of that stress every 3 to 5 weeks so that you can actually absorb the work. So for example, if your acute training load, the amount that you've done in the last week is really, really high and you just feel flat, we need to hold you. We don't need to keep putting up more and more load and stress. And so that comes into play when we build out the next week. If your chronic training load continues to rise and your fatigue levels continue to get really, really massive, then we need to be able to look at that, right? But if it's continuing to rise, you feel good, you're sleeping well, there's no outside stress, we can do more work. And so we look at it as a very holistic way, and we look at every single stress that's in your situation as an athlete. You worked 40 hours this week, but next week you only got 20. Well, let's adjust for that. Things are not always the same week to week to week, and even every day. There are days that we wake up and we're extremely fatigued. Well, that workout plays a role for the next week because we want to make sure that the workload is not overdoing it or underdoing it. And so your feedback for all this is really, really important. So this is where the relationship comes in. You have full access to your coach via text, email, and also in Training Peaks. And also, of course, we do phone calls. And then every week we just assess, and every week that we build upon that is based on all of those different types of metrics, whether they be subjective ones and objective ones. We combine them all and really look at the workload that we want to do for the following week. We either progress you, hold you, or pull back, or just repeat. And so from there, we build a very, very strong base. And then the little things that build up this massive, awesome, beautiful house that you can then go out and perform at your very best. It's very unique to you. Your build is not the same as anybody else's. So it's really based on you. And so if you travel a lot, have a job, or your life is just loud, we've coached through that. And so we don't scrap the plan, we just adjust it. We change it again, week after week after week. That's how the momentum builds. And so in terms of all this, I've had athletes tell me that I've never trained this consistently or this smart. And so we want to be able to have that from you. This is the first time that I've trusted the process because it's actually adjusts with me. That's what we want to hear. That's the feedback that we want to have. And so that's coaching. And so the whole time you feel like you're being supported and guided, but you're not being managed at all. And the plan will move with your life and not against it. And so this isn't for people that just want a progressive overload. This is someone who wants to dive in deep and really look at the metrics and support and look at using power or pace or heart rate and really wanting to know how much you can get out of yourself. And so you want to know if this is right for you, you can connect with me at any time at AngelaNaeth16@gmail.com. You can check out our coaching page here, and you can also contact us on the website. Again, your finish line is definitely our mission. I'm very passionate about this. So if you are interested, connect and we'll take a call.